I click the start button. Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll get started in just a moment here. Going to give everyone a chance to filter in. Welcome to our Learning Libby with the Experts webinar. We're excited to share a lot of wonderful information with you today about the Libby app from OverDrive. We're going to break up this webinar into kind of two major sections. The first is going to be getting started, everything you need to know for your day-to-day life in the Libby app. And the second half is going to be tips and tricks. And I kind of say that those are the cherry on top of the sundae, some bonus features, some fun things. And if you're someone who's already using Libby, just a little more info to add into your repertoire. We'll have a nice 5-minute break in the middle. This will be your chance if you want to download the Libby app or, stretch, get some more coffee, anything you need. And we'll keep you posted as we go through our time here. So let's get started. First, we'll introduce ourselves. My name is Joe, and I am here from OverDrive. Now, of course, you may already be familiar with OverDrive, the original app, which was our legacy app, served us for many, many years. But we have since built from the ground up the Libby app with user feedback in mind, and it's designed to just have this easy, beautiful experience, which is what we are here to talk about today. At OverDrive, I'm part of the digital bookmobile team. And I get to plan a tour route for this big old truck that we send across the US and Canada, going to different libraries and schools, helping people just like you get started. I'm here with the other half of the team.
Hi there, good morning. My name is Marissa. I'm the other half of the digital bookmobile team. I always like to joke with Joe and say that he has the boring half of our job, which is staying back in Cleveland and planning our tour route, doing things like the budget at his desk, whereas I get the fun part, which is traveling with our digital bookmobile and teaching patrons just like you how to learn Libby. So I've helped thousands and thousands of people learn the basics of Libby, as well as sharing some tips and tricks with them as well. So we're excited to do that here with you today. Even if right now it's virtual, maybe one day we'll get back. Well, we are definitely going to get back out on the road, but maybe we'll visit your library in person eventually.
Definitely. Looking forward to getting back on the road, but also enjoying these virtual moments. Aside from being able to go from one state to another within 24 hours, we also even get to go into other countries. So it's a lot of fun. Now, as Marissa said, I do have the boring part of our job. I get to take y'all through the housekeeping. So I just want to start off, we have closed captions enabled for the webinar. If you need to adjust these at all, just tap the box that says CC in your Zoom meeting controls. If you've got them turned on and they get in your way, you can move them to a different part of your screen using your mouse. Now, if you have questions, Marissa and I are both here for you. You can ask us questions throughout the entire webinar. If one of us is talking or presenting, the other will be responding. Just tap on Q&A, type out your question, and leave that box open so you can see our response once it pops up after you've sent your question through. If it makes you more comfortable, you can also ask questions anonymously. Now, we are recording our webinar this morning, and you will receive a link to that recording. So we love to record this so that way, if for any reason you need to step away, if you need to hop off early, if you want to refer back to something, you can always review that recording. You'll get an email tomorrow morning from Zoom that includes that link. That will expire after 30 days, the video itself, but you can download and keep it permanently if you like. Also in that email is a link to our helpful Getting Started PDF. That won't expire, and it will take you through the step-by-step download and sign-in process and provide short video clips for everything we cover in the basics session. So if instead of rewatching the whole webinar, you just want to see a small part, you could use those recordings instead. Now, since we've got a lot of great ways for you to review what we've covered, we recommend that you watch us as we go through this basics portion. Just, sit back, absorb what Marissa's got to share, and wait to try out Libby until after we hit that 5-minute break. You can kind of follow along with us in the tips and tricks if you like, but just kind of sit back for this basics part. We found it's a little easier that way. We do have a survey. It will pop up in your web browser when we end the webinar. Super helpful for us. This gives us ways that we can grow and help other people even better in the future. And then last, we'll be connecting our iPads into the webinar this morning. Sometimes when we do this, Zoom cuts off part of the display. I need you to be able to see Libby in her full glory. So we'll send out some instructions in just a few seconds to be able to adjust that if for some reason you lose any of that. And with that said, I'm going to take a second here and get myself connected into the webinar. So I will be taking everyone through the download and sign in process. And then I'll hand it over to Marissa for those basics. Now I mentioned Marissa and I are using iPads this morning. Actually, Marissa's using an iPad. I'll be using an iPhone. But the Libby app is available for download on Apple, Android, or you can use Libby in your browser by going to libbyapp.com. Now, whether you are using any of those options, Apple, Android, or the web version, once we're in the Libby app, everything's going to look exactly the same. So you won't even have to get confused once you're in the Libby app. And give me 1 second here. There we go. All right. So now that I'm all connected, we're going to head into our App Store and download the app. For my Apple users, you'll tap on your blue App Store icon. And for Android users, you'll head into the Google Play Store. It's a multicolored play button or multicolored triangle. Once you're in, you'll go to your search bar. And all you need to do is type in Libby, L-I-B-B-Y. And I'm just going to hit search in my device's keyboard, because when I do that, Libby is going to be one of the first results that pops up. And we can actually see right here, Libby by OverDrive. We've got our maroon app icon with Libby reading her book. When you're ready to download, just tap Get or Install on your screen. Get on Apple, Install on Android, and give Libby a moment to get downloaded. Libby is completely free, so there is no cost to download and enjoy. You just might be prompted to sign in based on your device settings, so have those passwords handy. Once Libby's all downloaded, we'll leave the App Store and go and open up that freshly downloaded Libby app. One second as I'm having some technical difficulties, the joys of working from home. Now, when we open up the Libby app for the very first time, she has a few questions for us to help us find our library and get signed in with our library card. Now, the first question right up at the top is, do you have a library card? And I'll say yes. And now we need to find our library location. Now, for my purposes, the first time I set up a device, I recommend using I'll search for a library. I wanted to point out, though, copy from my other device. If you are like me and you use Libby on your phone and your tablet, or maybe even your computer too, when you're ready to set up that second or that third device, this option right here will make it super quick and easy to do that. But for that very first setup, we'll go into I'll search for a library. Now, I like this option because I can type in the name of my library, the city I live in, or the zip code, which is what I'll run with today. And we are looking for, right up top here, Hancock County Library System. Now you'll see this may not be your branch. You may not be from Waveland Public, but you can see there's 4 other branches as well. What's more important than the physical address, since all of this is digital, is, clicking things on my screen, is this name right up top. So what you're looking for when you type in your zip code or the library name is Hancock County. So we'll make this selection by tapping on it. And now Libby's going to prompt me to wrap up these steps by signing in with my library card. I'm going to tap on Enter Library Account Details. And from here, I'm going to type in my library card number. It will be usually under a barcode. And just enter the numbers only, no dashes or spaces. Once that number's in, tap on Next, and then you'll be prompted for your PIN. Now, if you have any trouble during these steps, if you don't know your PIN number, you have an issue with your library card, just reach out to your friendly neighborhood librarians. They're the ones who will be able to help you with that. And once all that info is entered, we'll tap on Sign In. And as long as I typed it in correctly, there we go. My card has appeared here on the screen. And I can see I can borrow up to 5 items at a time, and I can place a hold on up to 5. I'll tap on Next, and that wraps up the download and sign-in process, and we have access to our library's complete collection of ebooks and audiobooks. Now's where I get to hand it over to Marissa. She is going to get her iPad connected into the webinar, and she'll take us through the basics, everything we need to know for our day-to-day life in Libby, you know, the short and sweet of it. Marissa is using a demo library from OverDrive today. We like to do this just so we don't have to worry about making any wait lists longer for y'all. We don't want to borrow anything you might be waiting on, but no worries. Everything functions exactly the same. You'll just see some different logos and titles on the screen. If you have any questions, I'll be hanging out in the Q&A, but Marissa, it's all yours.
Thank you, Joe. So before I dive into our basics here, I just want to give a final reminder about that zoom ratio. Sometimes Zoom will shrink our device screens here. So down at the bottom of my screen right now, you should see a navigation bar, and it has 5 icons within it. It has Search, Library, the Libby icon, Shelf, and Timeline. So if you cannot see those 5 icons down at the bottom of my screen, then Joe just put out those instructions one more time for you in chat. So go to Zoom's meeting controls there, and you'll be able to fix that within a couple of clicks. And it just really makes it much easier to follow along, especially in this first session here. So I'll let everyone go ahead and do that. Now, I am going to talk about all of these icons at some point in our presentation today, but we're going to start out with the second icon in that navigation bar. It is a little library building, and it says library underneath. So when you tap on the library icon, you will be able to browse your library's entire collection of ebooks and audiobooks. And I say browse because here you're going to see everything that the library has to offer. And it's very similar to if you were to walk into the physical library, not knowing what you're going to borrow yet, and just seeing what they have available on their shelves. So we don't know specifically what we're looking for here. We're just browsing the library's entire collection. Up at the top of this library page is where you're going to see some filters. These filters are a really great place to start when you're browsing. You could tap on Just Added if you want to see a full list of titles that were recently purchased by your library, so they're new to the collection. Available Now is also a really great filter. If you're someone who's a big reader and you always want a book to read right away, then you can tap into Available Now. And this is going to be a list of titles that currently don't have a waiting list. So you can borrow them straight away and begin reading them. And then lastly, we have subjects here. And so if you are a big subject or genre reader, perhaps you really like biographies or historical fiction or romance, you could tap into subjects and then choose the subject that you want to browse by. So that is quite a popular filter to use as well. Now, as we scroll down the page, you're going to come across this little section that's labeled Guides, and it's always going to look like 4 squares here. Now, guides do differ from library to library. The library gets to choose which guides are showcased in their digital collection here. So yours aren't going to look exactly like mine do. You do have a kids and teens guide. You also have a mystery thriller guide as well. So if you want to just hop into a list of mystery thrillers, you can do that as well. Guides are just another way that the library can point you in the direction of certain content based on a specific criteria. So in the example of kids and teens, you could tap into those guides and you'll see curated collections that are made of all YA content or all juvenile content. So it makes it a little easier to find there. Now, as we continue to scroll down the page here, you'll start to see general curated collections that your library puts together for you. And these are a lot like if you were to walk into the physical library in the summer and the librarian has put together a really great collection of beach reads on an end cap. And then when you go back in the winter, that display now shows cozy mysteries or holiday recipe guides. These curated collections are going to rotate throughout the year. So the library is always wanting to show us something fresh and new, and that is kind of how you can view that, these curated collections here on the library tab. So like I said, the library icon is where you go to browse. You don't know exactly what you're looking for. You want to see everything the library has to offer. Now, in the instances where you do know exactly what you're looking for, maybe you have an author in mind or a specific title in mind, that's when you're going to tap on the search icon instead. It is down, it's the first icon there in my navigation bar here. When you tap on search, you'll have a search bar where you can type in a specific title, you can type in a specific author, or even a series name as well. So let's say I want to search for One by One by Ruth Ware. I'll go ahead and type in my title here. I like to skip my search suggestions and just capture everything in the search by tapping the search button within my device's keyboard. And you'll see the book that I was looking for shows up right at the top of this list. So this is what a list is going to look like, or search results will look like. And there's two things that I want to point out here for you. The first is going to be how you can visually tell the difference between an ebook versus an audiobook. So libraries actually purchase those formats separately. That means they buy ebooks and they buy audiobooks. And so you can't borrow an audiobook and then switch it over into an ebook. So when you want to listen to a book, what you're going to be on the lookout for is a square jacket cover. It kind of looks like a CD case. That's a nice way to keep it straight in your mind. CD cases are square. Audiobook jacket covers are square. And then right underneath that, you'll see a set of headphones as well as the duration of the audiobook. So those are three good visual indicators that you can use to know that that is going to be a book that you listen to. Now, in instances where you'd like to read the book instead, you'll be on the lookout for a rectangular jacket cover. Quite literally looks like the shape of a book if you pulled it off the shelf. So when you want to read, you'll look for that rectangle. Now, in addition to how we can tell the difference visually between an ebook and an audiobook, I also want to point out how you can tell the difference between titles that are available to borrow right away and then titles that you'll have to wait on a waiting list for. So the audiobook version here of One by One, up at the top next to the jacket cover, it says place hold. And that means there's currently someone reading every copy that the library owns. And to join the waiting list, all you have to do is tap on place hold. That's going to take you to the confirmation page here. And then down at the bottom, Libby's even going to let you know how long that title will take to get to you. And then you can confirm that you want to place the hold by tapping that big maroon button there that says place hold. Now, once you do that, Libby's going to let you know that you have placed the hold. Looks like my internet is taking a second here. So we've confirmed that we're placing the hold, and then Libby's going to give us a few options for what to do next down below. Now, generally, when I place holds, I'm still looking for books to read right now. So what I like to do is tap on Keep Browsing. And that's going to take us right on back to the same search results or list that we were looking at prior. So you can see now the audiobook version is on my hold shelf. So the borrowing process is just as easy. If the book says borrow right next to the jacket cover, that means it's available to borrow right away. We could tap on this button here. Or if you don't know what a book is about yet, you just have to tap on the jacket cover itself, and that will take you to the details page. So you'll get to read about what that book is about. And if we decide that that is the direction that we want to go, we have a borrow button right here on this page as well to borrow it. So I'm going to tap on borrow. And now we're on the borrowing confirmation page. So up at the top here, you can see we're borrowing 1 by 1 for 14 days. 14 days is the default lending period at your library, and titles do return automatically on their due date. So you don't have to worry about hopping back in Libby to return it to the library yourself. Libby is going to do that for you. Now that we're ready, we're going to come down to the bottom of the screen here, and we're going to tap that big maroon button to confirm that we want to borrow the book. And then this is where Libby's going to start downloading the title for offline use. So you can see this circle here, it's filling up. This is Libby downloading the title. Libby does this automatically when you're on Wi-Fi. And as soon as you get that check mark on that library card there, that's how you know that you no longer need to use Wi-Fi or cellular data. That means you can take the book up into a plane on airplane mode. You could be out in the woods without any cell phone service, and you'll still be able to open and enjoy your book. Now I'm going to go ahead and tap on Open Book here. And this is where Libby is going to ask, do you want to read the book in Libby, so the app that I'm showing you right now, or do you have a Kindle device that you prefer to read on, something like a Paperwhite? If you have a Kindle device that you like to read on instead, you can tap Kindle here. You will be prompted to sign into your Amazon account, and then there will be a button that says Get Library Book. It's a really quick two-step process. I don't walk through it here live with you because it requires me to sign into my Amazon account, but in that PDF that you'll receive tomorrow, I do have a short video that goes through these steps for you. So if you want to see that Kindle process, you can reference that video in the PDF. For now, I'm going to open this book right here in the Libby app. So I'm going to tap on Libby, and this is going to open our book right up for us. Up at the top and the bottom of the screen, we're going to have some menus. This lower menu takes a second to load generally, but what it's going to do is show you your reading progress. So it's going to show you the page that you're on here on the left, and then on the right, it will show you the total number of pages. To make those menus drop out of the way so that we can begin reading, all you have to do is tap in the center of the screen and they will disappear. And then we can start swiping or tapping on the right side of the screen here to page forward. Now I'm going to move quickly here and get past all of this beginning book stuff, get to a big chunk of text here. There we go. And I want to show you how you can customize your reading appearance to meet your own individual needs. This is one of my favorite parts about reading digitally, is that you can make these books work for you by making every book a large print book instead of having to strain your eyes or anything like that. So I'm going to tap on the center of the screen here. That's going to make our menus reappear. And then up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see this A icon. So the A stands for appearance. And anytime you want to change what your book looks like, you're going to tap on that A, and that's going to open up your appearance menu. Now, within the appearance menu, there are 3 things that you can change. The first is going to be the text scale, so the size of the font here. You can use this slider here to increase or decrease your font size. Next, we have lighting. I'm currently in bright mode. That is Libby's default, but you can switch it over to a sepia or this dark mode if you like to read at night, or you just like something that's easier on your eyes. That's available to you as well. And then last but not least, we have book design. And book design is just Libby's fancy way of saying font. So these are the different font styles that you have available to you. I always like to point out this open dyslexic font because it might help some users with dyslexia while reading. Now, I changed these all over so that I could show you a little bit of what that will look like, but I'm going to actually change them all back to my personal defaults. And the reason I do that is because these settings are sticky. And what I mean by sticky is you only have to make these customizations 1 time per device, and then Libby's going to remember exactly the customizations that you like and deliver those titles to you with those in place already. So you're not going to have to come in here every time you borrow an ebook and switch those around. Libby will do that for you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tap on hide here. That's just going to drop our menu out of the way. And then we're going to leave this ebook and pop into an audiobook here for a second. So I'm going to come up to the top left-hand corner. You'll see this back button. If these menus aren't on your screen, remember you just have to tap in the center of the screen to make them reappear or disappear, and then you'll see that back button there. And now we're over on our shelf. And this is where I reorient everyone down in the navigation bar. So let's go down to the bottom of the screen here for a second. The first thing I'm going to point out is this now reading bar. This is Libby's way of giving you easy access to the very last book that you had open in the app. Anytime you see that now reading bar, you can tap on it. It's going to open your book right back up to the last place that you were at. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this for now so that we can see the full navigation bar here. Now, let's just review really quickly the first 2 icons that we talked about. We first tapped on the library icon. This is where we browsed for titles. We didn't know exactly what we were looking for here. We were seeing everything that the library had to offer, so we could use the filters up at the top. We could go into those guides or look at those curated collections that the library puts together for us. Then we went over to the search icon. That's where we do know exactly what we're looking for. We're searching for a specific title or a specific author or a series name. I'm now over on the shelf. It's the 4th icon that you see in that navigation bar. Looks like a little stack of books, and it says shelf underneath. And your shelf is going to be where you can find all of your borrowed books. So these are the books that you're currently in that 14-day lending period for. You have them borrowed from the library. I like to say you can remember it by if you were to pick a book up off your shelf in your house and begin reading it. The digital version of that is that these are books that are on your current lending period shelf. So you can think of it that way. Up at the top of our shelf, we have our loans and holds filters. So if you specifically want to look at what you currently are in your lending period for, or what you're currently on the waiting list for, you can do that. On the main page here, it's going to show you all of your loans that are organized by the last time that you opened the book. So here at the top is the book I just borrowed with you earlier in the presentation. And then as I scroll down, you can see some other titles that I've borrowed earlier in the week. I'm going to go ahead and from my shelf, open this audiobook that I have borrowed by tapping Open Audiobook. And then up at the top of the screen here, you'll see our reading progress. So I'm 24% of the way through here. We have some timestamps that show you how far in and how long you have left to go as well. And then down at the bottom of the screen is where we have our player. So when you're ready to begin listening, you just tap on play. That'll start the narrator. Now I can hear him on my end. You shouldn't be able to hear him on yours, so you can hear me instead. But one of the things that I always think is the most important thing to say about audiobooks in Libby is that audiobooks are designed to play in the background of your device. And what that means is as soon as you tap on play, you can minimize the app and open up Facebook or open up online shopping, or you could put your screen to sleep and start doing dishes or laundry. And Libby is going to continue to play your audiobook in the background of your device. Now, with that in mind, the important thing to remember is when you're done listening to your audiobook, make sure you tap on this pause button. That's going to stop that narrator from talking. And then you don't have to worry about your audiobook continuing to play while you're not listening and having to go and find your place again. So always tap on pause before the end of your session, and that way you're not getting lost in your book. It can be a real pain sometimes to try to figure out where you left off. All right, those are the two most important things here in the audiobook experience. So I'm going to come up to the top here. I'm going to tap back up in that left-hand corner, just like I did in an ebook. And you'll see that's taken us right on back over to the shelf. And let's reorient again here. So let's go down to the bottom of the screen. I'll point out there's a new now reading bar, and that's because it's always the last book that you had open in Libby. I'm going to dismiss this again here. There we go. So your shelf are your current borrowed books. So these are books that you are in your lending period for, like I said. Right next door, you'll see your timeline. Your timeline is your history. So this is going to be everything that you've ever put on loan or hold at the library, as well as renewals and returns. So shelf is current, timeline is history. That's everything that you've ever had. Now we're going to finish off the presentation here for getting started. In the very center of the navigation bar, you can see the Libby icon. It's Libby reading her book. This is our Libby menu. And your Libby menu, you can think of as app settings, if that keeps it straight in your mind there. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that Libby icon, and you'll see our app settings have popped out from the side of the screen here. Now, up at the top, we have this box, and this box is going to show you all of your notifications that you get from Libby. I don't have any notifications right now. That's why Libby's letting me know I can manage my notifications here instead. And I'm going to pop into this menu here to show you what managing your notifications is going to look like. Libby is going to actually prompt you to manage your notifications the very first time you place a hold. So I'm coming in here the complicated way. Libby's going to bring it to you. It's going to make it nice and easy for you. But again, I just want to show you what that's going to look like. So up at the top of the screen here, we have 3 ways that you can be notified. By default, Libby is going to have everyone set to this blue notification line. And the blue notification line is a push notification. And push notifications, they appear on your device regardless of what app you have open. So that means you could be reading the news or looking at Facebook. And if an important event happens in Libby, then you'll get a little notification that looks just like a text message would on your screen. Now, if you want to switch that over to a menu badge, you're more than welcome. But a menu badge is going to be an in-app notification. That means you have to open up Libby to see it. It's not going to appear outside of the app. And it will be in that box that I was talking about up at the top of the Libby menu. Now, lastly, of course, if there's something that isn't important to you, you can set that to ignore as well. Now, right below all of the ways that you can be notified, You'll see all of the things that you can be notified about. And the most important one that I'm going to talk about here is Hold Ready. And I really recommend that everyone keeps your Hold Ready notifications set to that blue push notification option that appears on your device's screen no matter what. And the reason I recommend that is because when it's your turn on a wait list, Libby gives you a 3-day period to take action on that title. And within that 3 days, the book is sitting in limbo, and you're the only person who can take action on it. So the 3 actions that you can take in your 3-day period are to borrow the hold, cancel the hold, or have the hold delivered later. Delivered later is a great feature if you're not going to have time to read the book this week. What you can do is set a time period to stay at the top of the waiting list, and then as soon as that time period ends, you'll be the next person in line to get the book. Now, in the 3-day limbo period, if you don't either cancel, borrow, or deliver the title later, Libby will, as a one-time courtesy, deliver the title later after 7 days, and you'll have a second limbo period for 3 days. In your second limbo period, if you don't take action again, that's when Libby's going to cancel your hold. So you'll have to go and find the book again and rejoin the wait list. And I don't know about you, but it is a day ruiner when I wait a couple of weeks for a book and then I forget to take action and I have to wait another couple of weeks for the book. So that's why I really recommend keeping your Hold Ready notifications set to your push notification option so you're being alerted regardless of if you open Libby or not. All right, I'm going to come back up to the top here. I'm just going to tap on back to go back to that main Libby menu. Right below where our notifications show up, you'll see your library cards. So you'll see here I have 2 library cards attached to Libby. They're both demo accounts, but you can add as many library cards as you'd like to Libby, as long as you have a valid library card to the library that you're wanting to add, and that library uses OverDrive services. So here in Ohio, we have a city library, a county library, and then a state library that we all have access to. That might be a possibility for you as well. And what that does is you can tap into their individual collections. Maybe one library has purchased a book that another hasn't. For popular titles, it's nice because you can see who has the shortest wait list, etc. Now, right below our libraries here, we also have help and support. I'm going to talk about 2 of these options here. The first, we're going to go down into our settings. And what I want to talk about in our settings is customizing our navigation. That's going to be down at the bottom of our settings menu. And when I tap on Customize Navigation, you'll see again at the bottom, the navigation bar section has a labeled icons option. I currently have these toggled on. That's why you're seeing the labels underneath my icons here in my navigation bar. By default, Libby has these toggled off, so they're just bigger icons. I really recommend toggling these on as you're getting used to Libby. It helps you keep straight where you need to go. 4 years into Libby, I still like them to be turned on. So again, I really recommend it. And I do have another PDF video. It's a short 30-second video that shows you exactly where you need to go and what steps you need to take to turn these labeled icons on. So you can reference that there instead of trying to find this spot in the recording. All right, I'm going to come back up here. I'm tapping back twice to go to that main Libby menu here. And then the last thing we'll talk about under help and support is getting some help. So for the next hour or so, you have Joe and I at your disposal. We can answer any questions that you have about the Libby app. After this webinar ends, you of course have your library. They are quite helpful as well. You can ask them any questions. And then you can also find help and support directly here in the Libby app. There's 2 different ways to do that. The first is, I say, self-guided help. So this is asking Libby a question and the computer trying to give you an answer here. So up in the top of this menu, you'll see this box. Here you can ask a question or even type in a keyword. Maybe you want to learn how to return titles early before their due date. You can just type in that keyword and tap on search. And the computer is going to try to answer your question. So you can see Libby's giving me returning books. I'll tap on returning books. And she's answering this question for me. To return books manually, follow these steps. So self-guided in that a computer's trying to answer your question. Now, if you can't find the answers you're looking for that way, you can always come down to ask our support team down here at the bottom. This is going to connect you with real life people, our OverDrive technical support specialists. They are an incredibly friendly group of folks, I promise. And you can say, I have a problem or a question. You can even submit an idea for the app and they'll pass it along to our app developers. And this is going to be all done via email. So you'll submit the question here in the app, and then they will email you back with the answer to your question or troubleshooting steps if you're having a deeper issue. And they answer questions 24/7. So you should be getting that answer relatively quickly. And that is everything you need to know for the basics of getting started with the Libby app. I'm going to let Joe take back over on the screen here, and he's going to walk us into some next steps.
Thanks, Marissa, and thank you for taking us through those basics. So we're hitting that wrap up here where we've made it through the first chunk of our morning, covering everything you needed to know in Libby, but I wanted to remind you, please feel free to ask us questions, send those through, and we will be here. We'll get those answered for you, and you can even ask questions anonymously. Now, if you don't have any questions for us, we do have some for you. Stick around. We are about to hop into our mini quiz, and we'll take you through some questions there. Now, before I talk about this last box here, I wanted to say we'll now give you about a 5-minute break. So that is where we'll run our mini quiz. And I'll just say, let's all be back at what time is it? At 10:50. So at 10:50, we will head into our deep dive session. I will give you a last call before we get to that deep dive, just to remind everyone that's what we're heading into, because this session, like I said before, is the cherry on top of the sundae. These are some extra features, some bonus features, things that you don't necessarily need to know, but that we love as power users of Libby. And we want you to have that info, but we recognize if you're just getting started, this could be a lot of info for your morning. We don't want anyone to leave feeling overwhelmed. So I'll give you that warning if you want to hop off. And as early as tomorrow, you'll be able to watch the full recording of this webinar and see what you missed if you choose to hop off and not stick around for the deep dive. So just keep that in mind. All right, so take your break if you want to get up and stretch, run to the restroom, get some more coffee, any of those things. But in the meantime, for the next 5 minutes or so, we will be going over some quiz questions here. They are going to pop up automatically on your screen. The answers are completely anonymous, so just go through, give it your best answer or your best guess if you're unsure. And if you truly are unsure, there's an option for that as well. All right, question number 1. What do you tap to browse your library's collection? The magnifying glass, the library, Libby, the stack of books, or the clock? So this is when we want to browse our library's collection. We don't know exactly what we're looking for. We're just trying to find our next great read. And I'll close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome work. Everyone who answered that got it correct. When you are ready to find your next great read, you want to browse around. Just like with the physical collection, you're going to go to the library. So we will tap on our library icon here, and this gives us that feeling of walking around the virtual library. We can use these filters up at the top to help narrow down our quest. We could go through our library's different guides, or we can even scroll through and hop into any of these different curated lists that kind of pique our attention the same way that those end caps of different holiday celebrations and collections that the library is drawing attention to do. When you know exactly what you're looking for, tap on the magnifying glass and you can type in a title, an author, or a series name, and you'll get some great results that way as well. Awesome. So for question number 2, we're also going to be in that navigation bar. What do you tap to find your current loans and holds? Magnifying glass, library, Libby, stack of books, or clock. So where do we go to find our current loans and holds? They live on your shelf. Which one is that? And I'll close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Once again, y'all are nailing it. So when you want to find your current loans and holds, maybe you're reading a couple different books at the same time and you want to switch between them, or you want to see how much longer you have left on your hold, we'll head to the navigation bar and tap on that stack of books. From here on our shelf, we can split out and look at just our loans or just our holds, or even our tags, which we'll talk about shortly here. And as Marissa mentioned earlier, everything is going to appear in here from your most recent borrow to your oldest. All right, for question number 3, what are the 3 ways you can customize your ebook's appearance? So select all that apply for me. You can change the text scale or the size of the font, the lighting or the background color of the page, the book design or the font the book is presented in, or the language the book is written in. So 3 correct answers here. Give it your best shot. And we'll close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And oh man, Marissa, they were really listening to you today. Excellent work, everyone. So when you are ready to adjust your ebook's appearance settings, tap in the center of the screen, and then tap on the A icon to pull up the appearance menu. From here, you can adjust that text scale. Any ebook can be a large print book, so you can get it as large or as small as you need. Next, you can change that lighting. So bright, sepia, and dark, you'll find what works best for your eyes. And then last, we have that book design. So there are 5 pre-made fonts, including the font the book was published in, along with our Open Dyslexic font. But I do like to point out this custom option where you can even get really granular and change things like the spacing between lines of text. All right. Here's a quick one, true or false. Titles return automatically on their due date. And I'll close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome work, everyone. This is a great one because Marissa just sneaks this in when she's showing you how to reach our help team. So titles return automatically on their due date, so you never have to worry about fines or late fees. The books are just going to take themselves back to the digital library. But if you did want to return a book early, I always say, sometimes you give yourself that full 2 weeks and it ends up being like the most, I got to get through this tonight book possible. And you want to make sure that the next person can borrow it. Maybe there's a hold list. Maybe it was just that good. You want it back on the shelf. Go to your shelf next to the book you want to return. Tap on Manage Loan. From here, you can choose Return Early. There will be a confirmation screen, so you don't accidentally return something you didn't mean to, but tap return that second time, and the book will go back to the library. I'm going to do one final question. All right. It's a long one. When a hold becomes available, you can either borrow the title, have the title delivered later, or cancel your hold. How long do you have to make one of these choices? 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, or 1 week? So this is when Marissa was talking about notifications, when that hold becomes ready. How long do you have to either borrow it, cancel it, or have it delivered later? And I'll close this one in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Hey, not too bad. This is one that always takes a little bit of time to get the understanding in. So when a hold becomes available, of course, you have those options. You can either borrow it right then, you can have Libby keep you at the top of the wait list and have her deliver it at a later date when you're ready for it, or you can cancel that hold. But you have to make one of these choices within 3 days. So from your shelf, that ready to borrow book is going to appear right at the top. And there you can either tap borrow, deliver later to select that wait time, or if you tap on manage hold, you can come in and cancel it. Well, excellent work, everyone. That wraps up our quiz time here. I'll just flip over to this screen. And I'll take a minute to say thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is that last call I promised. We are about to head into our deep dive. So if you've hit your max capacity, you're not ready to take in any more info today, remember you'll get that email tomorrow that includes a link to the full recording so you can skip ahead and watch the deep dive at your own comfort. If you're exiting now, tap leave in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and fill out the survey that'll pop up in your web browser. Let us know what you thought of today. And enjoy Libby. Now, if you are sticking around, we are going to dive right into our deep dive. Just, of course, 2 quick reminders. Closed captions are available, and you can adjust those using your Zoom meeting controls, tapping on the box that says CC. If you have questions, tap the Q&A button, type out your question, send it through to us, and then leave that window open. If we are typing a response, it will appear in there. But in this section, we do set aside about 10 to 15 minutes at the end where we will answer any questions live as they come through over audio, and we'll even show them off in Libby. So, send those questions through. I may mark them to be answered live, and that will be done at the end of the session. All right. So there are 4 things we want to take you through today. So we're going to start off with customizing your browsing experience, a way to kind of truly choose what shows up in your display when you're using Libby. Then we are going to take you through filtering and refining lists so you can find the books you like faster. Then we'll hop into our favorite tip of them all, which is tags, what they are, how we use them, and some ways you can enjoy them yourself. And then we'll wrap up with making and exporting notes and highlights, great for students in school, people in book club, and so many others. Marissa, I will let you take over here and dive right into our first tip.
All right, thank you, Joe. Just give me a second here to get connected. Good job on that quiz. Hardly ever do we get 100% answers the majority of the time. So really impressed with everyone there. I'm just gonna rearrange my screen here really quickly. There we go. So I'm going to dive right in so that you have plenty of time to answer or ask any questions that you have at the end of our session here. So let's just hop right into tip number 1, which is all about customizing your browsing experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop into one of our filters here on the library tab where we browse, and I'm going to show you how you can set an app-wide filter that's saved and applied to all lists moving forward. So when you are in a list, you'll have a bar that kind of breaks up the screen here, and on the left side of that bar, it's going to say Preferences. And when you tap on Preferences, you'll be able to apply filters in Libby that, again, are saved and applied to all lists. And what that means is no matter how many times you open and close Libby or turn your device on and off or come back in a week or a month from now, Libby's going to remember that filter and continue to filter your browsing and searches thereafter. And so in what instances would you want Libby to filter content out indefinitely? Well, language is a big one that I see on the bookmobile most often. I am an example of this as well, much to my high school French teacher's dismay. I only speak English now that I'm in my 30s. And so for language, instead of any language populating in my searching and browsing, I like to have this set to English specifically. And that way, anytime I look for a book, Libby's only showing me titles that were written or spoken in English. I'm not sorting through anything written in Spanish or French or Russian, etc. And so language, I would say, is the most common preference that people will have on their Libby app. Two other ones are ones that I'm going to cover as well. So format is also quite popular. Right now, when I'm looking for a book, it's showing me books written in any format, whether it's whether it's ebooks or audiobooks. So if you're someone who, maybe you hate the way narrators narrate, you don't want to listen to books, you only want to read it so you can form those narrations in your own mind, you can set a book preference. That means you'll only see ebooks when you're looking for a book. Or vice versa. Perhaps reading books isn't as easy as it used to be. You like that audiobook experience much, much better. So you can tap on audiobooks here, set an audiobook preference, and then you'll only see audiobooks in your searches. The other one I'll talk about here in this tip is audience. When I'm looking for a book right now, I'm seeing juvenile, YA, general, and mature content. I specifically go over this section here for you to let you know that if you have young kids at home, they have their own device, you want to make sure they're not coming across 50 Shades of Grey when they're looking for a book. You can set a juvenile or a YA preference, and then they're only seeing age-appropriate content showing up in Libby. Now, once you choose your preferences, you can choose as many of these as you'd like. What you can do then is tap on Apply Preferences. Make sure you do that, otherwise it doesn't actually apply your preference. And you'll know that you have a preference set because a number will show up in a circle right next to that Preferences button. So I have my English preference set. Libby's letting me know you have one filter, filtering content out. And that's good to know. If there's something you can't find, you can always be like, oh, maybe it's my preference filtering it out of the app right now. So that is a really quick, nice and easy tip. Tip number one, how to filter your browsing experience. So what's great again about this is that it's saved and applied to all lists moving forward. I'm going to move into tip number two, and this is going to be how to temporarily filter your searches. So this will be for the list or search that you're making right at that moment. And so for this one, I'm going to have a little prompt here just to show you how easy it is to start narrowing it down. Let's say we're going to pretend that my mom and I are going to go on a road trip tomorrow. And so we're going to need an audiobook for that road trip. She likes mystery historical fiction titles, so I'll let mom choose this time. I'll be the nice daughter. And then last but not least, I'll say I want something that is a new release, maybe something that came out in the last year. So that's the criteria we're going to use to narrow this list down. Because you can see up at the top here, I have 37,000 books and 22,000 audiobooks that I would have to look through if I'm looking through this list right now. Let's get that to a more reasonable number. What I'm going to do is come over to Refine on the right side of that bar that breaks up the screen. And we have some options here to choose from. And you're going to think, These are all the same options that we saw over in preferences. The difference here is that preferences are sticky and stay. Refining is temporary. It's just for that search that we're making or the browsing the list that we're browsing, and it's going to revert back to the default after we're done with it. So the first thing we're going to change is format. I want an audiobook. We don't drive a Tesla, so we can't read and drive. So we need that audio. We've already dropped this down to 22,000 audiobooks. I'm going to come back to refine now. We're going to choose our subjects. So she likes mystery, historical fiction. I'm going to go ahead and tap on mystery. We've dropped that number down to 2,800, but my mom doesn't just like mysteries. She likes mystery, historical fiction. So we're going to come back to subject, and I'm going to scroll until I find that second genre here, historical fiction. And now that number has dropped to 218. Now, this is one of the reasons that I show this tip off, is so that you know you can find niche subjects in Libby. So right now, our list is not showing us mystery titles and historical fiction titles. It's actually showing us mystery titles that are also historical fiction titles. These two genres are combined for this list. And between 2 and 4 subjects is the sweet spot here. Once you get past that, Libby's going to be like, there's not any books that fit that criteria. There's not very many books that are horror, comedy, memoir, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 2 to 4 generally is going to get you where you need to go. Past that, Libby's going to be like, sorry, you have one book that fits this criteria. I'm going to come back to refine one more time here. And this is so that we can find a new release. So if you're on a smaller device, you might have to scroll just a tiny bit to find it. But what we're looking for is sort by. I'm currently sorted by popularity. Instead, I want this list sorted by release date. And this is going to make it so that the newest titles are showing up at the top. And then as I make my way down the list, they're going to get older and older. So we started this tip with 77,000 titles, and we've narrowed it down to 218. It's going to be much more reasonable for me to sort through this list than it was prior. And that is tip number 2, how to filter and refine your lists so that you can find the books that you like faster. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move into tip number 3. And like Joe said, this is our favorite tip. I could truly talk about tags for hours on hours, but I'm going to limit myself to 5 minutes for your sake. And these tags are really great for organizing books in Libby. So this is one of the main differences between OverDrive and Libby. OverDrive, you have a wish list and you have a history. In Libby, you have a tagging system, and it's much more robust because you can name tags whatever you want, and you can have as many tags as you'd like. And so a couple of examples of tags that you might make are wish lists. You might, thumbs down narrators that you don't like. That's something I do. I have a father-in-law who is an avid reader, and books are pretty much the only thing that you can give him as a gift that he's not just going to let sit in a closet. And so I'm constantly challenged to find books that he's going to like when we have to give him gifts. So one of the things I do is throughout the year, I have a Tim tag on my Libby device. I'll go ahead and mark or tag any books that I come across throughout the year. And it makes it really easy when I go around the holidays shopping for him. I can just open my Libby tag, find the books that I've already found for him. And it's really a selfish endeavor here. I just want more time at the bookstore for myself. But I use this as an example because you can use tags in any way that you find. It's all up to you. There's no one forming rules here. And so that is why I love tags so much. So let's go through how to create tags. Then I'm going to show you where to find your tag lists, and then I'm going to show you how to export your tags out of the app to share with a friend, to share with book club, etc. So let's say that I'm going through this list for finding that audiobook for my mom and I come across Clark in Division here. And I want to read this book, but maybe it's not the perfect match for my mom and I's road trip. What I'm going to do is come down to the third option here that says tag. I'll tap on that, and I can create a new tag to start a new list, or I can tap on any of my existing tags here to add it to an existing list. Now, regular tags are just for organization's sake. These are tags that you create and make lists for. You'll see I have a to be read, so my wish list, and then I have a cooking tag here to keep track of some recipes that I like. Smart tags, however, do have special abilities, and the one that everyone here is going to have right here is this red receipt. This is our borrowed smart tag. And what this does is Libby will automatically apply this little receipt icon to any books that you borrow in the Libby app. So it keeps track of all of your read books for you. And I'm going to show you here in a second why that is so nice and such a game changer. But I just want to reiterate, smart tags have special abilities, whereas regular tags you just create for organization's sake. So let's go ahead and create a new tag to show you that process. I'll tap on new tag, and we can name the tag or even give a description as well if we need more context. I'm a big genre tagger. I'm a mood reader, so I have to be in a specific mood to read mystery. And so I'll have a lot of genre tags on my device. I'm going to go ahead and type in mystery and then tap on done. I don't need a description for that. And you'll see that that tag has now applied next to Clark and Division in our list here. So tags show up when you're searching and browsing next to their title. This is one of the main reasons I love tags so much, and you'll see why here in a second. Let's say I'm scrolling down this list. I come across The War Widow. Well, that has my wish list, my to be read tag right next to it. I'm probably going to borrow that straight away when I'm looking for this ebook or this audiobook from our road trip, right? I'm not going to waste any more time. I know I'm interested in this. Let's go ahead and borrow it. Let's say The War Widow doesn't show up in this. I keep scrolling down the page. I come across Devil in the Dark Water, and that has that little red receipt, my borrowed smart tag. Prior to this tag existing, I guarantee you I would have listened to the first 20 minutes of this book or read the first 50 pages had it been an ebook before my memory came back and I'm like, oh, I read this book already. Now in my search, I can see I've borrowed this book before in Libby. I can just skip right on over it and keep on looking for a book without having to waste any of that time. So that is how you can tag your titles. Now I'm going to show you where to find those lists. So we're going to go down to the navigation bar here. There's the shelf. We're going to tap on shelf. And right next to our loan and hold filters, you'll see your tags. This is going to be a yellow button. When you tap on tags, you'll have your full list of tags that you have here. And Libby will even let you know how many titles are in each of those. So I'm going to pop into my wish list here just by tapping on the tag. And now we can see all of the titles that I've tagged as to be read. Now I'm going to pause this tip here and talk about these icons over on the left or the right hand side rather. Whether it's a calendar or your library card with a plus sign on it, they do the same thing. The calendar just indicates that's a book that currently has a waiting list. This is indicating it's currently available to borrow. If you tap on either of these icons, you can borrow or place a hold straight away from this screen without having to go and search for the book or look at the title details page. But more importantly, down at the bottom, you'll see all of the libraries that you have attached to Libby. And this is a great way to search across those multiple libraries and see what library has the shortest waiting list, if it's a popular title, or maybe one library owns it and the other one doesn't. That is a good option too. So this is a really game-changing icon here. It's one of my favorite things about the Libby app. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this out of the way. You can either tap the down arrow or just tap outside that menu and it will drop out of the way. And we'll get back to tags here. I'm going to come up to the top right-hand side and tap on actions. This is where you can rename your tag or delete your tag if you're not interested in having that borrowed tag. Especially, I like to show you that you can come in and delete that if you don't want Libby automatically tagging titles for you. And then in the middle here, you have the option to export. So if you tap on export tag, Libby gives you a few different file formats depending on what you want to do with this tag. You can choose one of those that works best for your needs. For the example, I'm just going to pop into table. And this is going to take us to the data export page. So you can see all of my tag books down here at the bottom of the screen. Up in the top right-hand corner, you'll have a share icon. That's a universal icon to all apps. That's square with the arrow pointing up. If you tap on share, you'll be able to send your tag list out in a text message or an email, and you can even print it out. If you scroll down, you'll have the option to print. Maybe you want to distribute a physical copy of a book club list at book club. You can do that as well. So that is our tip about tags. Favorite tag of them all. Like I said, I could go on and on and on, but I will, for your sake, stop there and we'll move on to tip number 4, which is all about making notes and highlights in the ebook experience. So we'll talk about how to make a highlight, how you can find the notes and highlights when you are still within your lending period. And then I'll also talk about how you can access those notes and highlights even if the book has gone back to the library. So let's go ahead and on the shelf, I'm going to open up a copy of Pride and Prejudice that I have borrowed. And when you want to make a highlight, you can do that. You can highlight a word, you can highlight a sentence or a full paragraph. It doesn't matter. What you need to do is start at the very beginning of the passage that you want to highlight. I'm going to move my mouse slightly to the left so that you can see as I hold my finger on the word you, it turns blue. I say hold your finger because as soon as your finger makes contact with the screen, you need to leave it there. If you tap, it's going to turn the page. So hold your finger on the first word and then swipe your finger across the screen until the full passage that you want is turned blue, has turned blue, and then you're going to lift your finger up off the screen. That's when that menu is going to pop up from the bottom. We can select some different colors here if you want to stay organized. Let's say I want to go yellow. Now that my highlight has turned yellow, that's when I can add a note. So I'm going to tap on the highlight itself and the note menu drops down. I have written full paragraphs here in this menu here. You're not limited to just a couple words, but for the sake of demonstration, I'll say this is a note and tap on save. Now let's just page forward here. And let's say I want to reference a note or highlight that I made earlier in the book. So I'm going to tap on the center of the screen. And then up in the top right-hand corner, we're going to look for this 3 bookmarks sitting in a row icon. These are going to be all of our notes and highlights in the Libby or in Pride and Prejudice. So here is a full list of all of those. And let's say I want to reference this note that I made here in chapter 4. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that highlight. Libby takes us right on back to that page, and then I just have to tap on the highlight itself to see the note that I made. Now, that's how you can access those if you're still in your lending period. That book is still on your shelf here in the Libby app, but you do have access to these even if the title's returned. So let's go ahead and talk about that. I'm going to leave this book by tapping in the center of the screen and then tapping on back. What we need to do is go to the details page of the book that we made notes and highlights for. So the easiest way to do that is by tapping the search icon, because we know exactly what we're looking for in this instance. And in our search bar, we're going to type in the title, and then we're going to tap on search. Now, here's another reason I love that Borrowed Smart tag. I know this is the book I'm looking for because I have that red receipt showing right next to that jacket cover. I'm going to tap on the jacket cover itself to go to the details page. Now, on the details page of books that you've borrowed in the Libby app, you'll have a reading journey. It starts as soon as you borrow a book, and then it captures every action that you take with that book while it's in your possession. I'm going to go ahead and tap on reading journey. Up at the top of your reading journey, you'll have a familiar button here that says Actions. If you tap on Actions, you can export your reading data. So this is following the same steps that I showed you for exporting your tags out of the app, but this is going to export your notes and highlights instead. So you can email them or print them or send them in a text message. Maybe that's taking it a little far and you just want to reference quickly a note that you made. What you can do is scroll down on your reading journey to the timeline for the title, and you'll have your highlights listed out there below. You just have to tap on each individual highlight here, and Libby's going to give you the full passage that you highlighted at the top, and then right underneath in quotations, you'll have the note that you made with it as well. So those are the two ways that you can access those, even if the book's gone back to the library. And that wraps up our last tip of the day here, tip number 4, making notes and highlights in an ebook. I'm going to let Joe take back over here and get us into our Q&A portion.
Thanks, Marissa. And thank you, everyone. This wraps up the deep dive, and we've gotten through all of our content for you today. We have some time now where we'd love to take the opportunity to answer any questions you have. So please feel free to use that Q&A button, type them out, and we will talk about them here over audio, live on the screen. If there's anything you'd like to see in Libby, we're more than happy to show that off as well. Got a great question right off the bat. Is there a way to request titles for purchase in Libby? Now, at the moment, there is not. That is a feature that we are currently working on. Excuse me, a fresh new way to be able to search for a title, and if it doesn't pop up in your library's collection in Libby, to hit a button to request it. But at this point, it's not available. I am going to quick find your library's website, your library's OverDrive website, because you can still do that. So if you're using Libby on your phone, they don't have the book you're looking for at your library, you could just switch over to your browser and request it that way. So I will type that in just a second. So at this point, no, but it is a feature that should be coming within the next few months. So just hold on tight for that. We are always coming up with new features in the Libby app. That is part of, one of the best parts about it, that we're growing and developing, and we're taking feedback from users and librarians to be able to get what Libby's missing. And I know Marissa mentioned it before in our in the getting started section. Sorry, my brain went blank there for a minute. As part of a way that if you were in that help and support email portion, you could submit an idea for the future. But I also wanted to show you an easier way. If we go into the Libby menu and then tap on Get Some Help under Help and Support, there's actually a suggestion box right under Common Solutions. So if you find something the app is missing, like right here we had from a previous day, I'd love to search across libraries. It's a great idea, something you could send through, but in this case, I'd love to be able to recommend titles to my library right within the Libby app. They'll get added to the list of people who have made that suggestion, and it bumps up the likelihood of it, or the priority level usually. So this will go right to our developers. And I am just going to send this through now. There we go. All right, great question. Oh gosh, bumping things around here today. Any other questions, any other thoughts or things you'd like to see? I do want to take a second to remind you, not only did we see the suggestion box, but of course you can always get help and support directly within the Libby app, in the Libby menu under that Get Some Help section. So Libby menu, get some help. And then up at the tippy top, you can type in keywords or short phrases. Like for here, we'll do tags as an example. And the first half is going to be that self-guided. Libby will present you with some options. You can find the article that best fits your needs, like what are tags. And if this helps, of course, you're good, you're done from there. But if you still have an additional question or questions, or maybe you're having an issue or need some support, you can tap on Ask Our Support Team. And once again, this will take you to the email spot where you can submit a problem, a question, or once again, an idea if you didn't go directly to the suggestion box. So it's also great that it's there for those moments when you find the answer you're looking for and you go, but it would be so much better if it worked a little bit like this. So some thoughts. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Since we don't really have too many questions coming through, we'll be happy to give you a little bit of time back to your morning. So just take a minute here. Once again, thank you. The big reminder is you'll receive an email tomorrow morning from Zoom around this time that will include 2 important links. The first is our full recorded presentation. Remember that video expires after 30 days, but it can be downloaded to be kept permanently. Ash, from the library's end, if you would like to download and save this, whether you have a YouTube channel you'd like to post it on or put it on the website, or even just share it with patrons, you're more than welcome to do so. And then, of course, the other link in that email is going to be our helpful Getting Started PDF, short video clips, step-by-step instructions. Perfect. I could hear that question coming through. Wanted to beat you to it this time. But yes, feel free to use these resources however you see fit. We're so glad to have had everyone with us today. And remember, even though we are not here to answer your questions after this ends, that tech support team is always there and ready to answer you. So with all of that said, fill out our survey. I'm about to end the webinar. Thank you all so much and happy reading.
Happy reading.